and thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my esteemed colleague, my partner in crime. Really, the best way to describe this person is my everything. It's at Eric Dalala.
Phil, another season has come to an end, and we're still hanging on.
We're just barely, though.
They can't get rid of us.
No.
We're like a couple of cockroaches.
With our analysis.
Yep.
And they just say, we'll take anything you got.
That's
Eric,
right.
Before the game the other day on Sunday, the season finale.
Oh, the
Chargers.
The Broncos won.
Yeah, the Broncos won that one. I made an appearance at the game. I was just like, I was walking around. I was
feeling okay?
Yeah, I was roaming the sidelines. And somebody yelled from the crowd, "Where's your everything? Where is he?"
How did Swanson get in the crowd? That's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah, I said he's up in the booth drinking hot cocoa.
Yep, of course. That's where I was.
Of course, I know.
I don't go down to the field.
It's a scary place.
I like to just stay up in my little box.
The field is scary.
Box.
Yeah.
Field, a lot of danger down there.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea.
Oh, we should also mention joining us in the studio, once again trying out for the role of podcast supervisor, it's at Denver Broncos.
Thanks, Phil. I'm also trying out for maybe head coach. I don't know. I'm hoping I can parlay this gig into that one. So
wow.
Leave you fools
Adam
behind.
Schefter is not.
I've seen no tweets about Ben Swanson.
No, we haven't seen that.
It's just because there's no leaks.
I'm wondering where the flannel is though today.
Well, I didn't want to, be like a cartoon character wearing the same thing every episode. So
got it.
What are you insinuating?
You're a human being.
Yeah.
Are you making fun of us?
Yeah.
Wow.
Decided to do the QZ.
We welcome you into our home.
Do the QZ.
I did a little collared shirt, unlike YouTube.
YouTube
too.
You guys.
That's where the comments are.
You guys.
We'll read them right here on the air.
And you're looking like schlubs.
Wow. When was the last time you trimmed your beard?
Actually, recently.
Oh, okay. After you cut down that tree?
That's just dirt, I think. Not even a beard.
It's for warmth. Yeah, it's for warmth.
Need it this time of year.
Yeah. Well, we've got an exciting episode in store for NZ Nation.
Always.
We're going to be talking about the top 3 decisions that need to be made this offseason to get the Broncos back to where do they need to get back to?
Ooh, probably relevancy.
Relevancy,
yeah.
I think is good. Let's start there.
Okay, I would promote all 3 of us.
Yeah, there we're done. Okay,
thanks for joining us.
You've been listening too. Yeah, 3 big decisions.
Yep.
This
nice that there's
we're going to
3.
name. Yeah, that worked out really nice.
Really convenient.
It was like sort of in a podcast format already.
Convenient.
It was perfect. Obviously, I think the first decision is to hire the right head coach.
Yep.
What are they going to do? So many options.
So many options. A lot of under the radar candidates too that people aren't really talking about.
It's almost like you're at like a salad bar and you're just like, what kind of salad am I going to make here? Like, there's so many options. There's all the dressings and all these different toppings. Yeah. The Broncos are at the salad bar right now. They got to make a good decision.
Got to make a nice salad.
You could just always go with a solid choice like a Caesar salad.
Maybe
not that big of a risk.
wedge.
Yeah, you could go with a wedge. You know what you're getting there. It's going to be good. It's going to be nice.
I like something a little more exotic.
Yeah,
I like to swing big.
Yeah,
maybe like a gem lettuce salad with some Calabrian chili.
Ooh,
see I think that lines up nicely with
that could
with
be
a
nice.
particular head coach.
Yeah, spicy,
spicy.
Yeah. A lot of blue cheese, maybe. It's not for everybody. It's got a lot of flavor. Yeah. Some people really like blue cheese.
They do. Maybe some corn, some maize.
Mace?
Corn.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mace.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first decision. That's going to kind of impact the direction this team goes in this offseason. But then, one thing we've heard a lot about, including from Broncos owner and CEO Greg Penner, an offensive identity.
Yep.
Eric, and they've got to make some decisions on the offensive side, including a big one about Jerry Jeudy.
That's right, Phil. 5th-year option decision.
Yeah.
Coming up next.
Yeah. Coming at you. So that's another big decision that they have to make.
Yeah.
And then the third one is, on defense, a guy like Draymond Jones. What are they going to try and do with him? Are they going to try and bring him back? Maybe franchise tag? That's a big decision, if you ask me.
Yeah, especially with the way the pass rush performed at times toward the end of the year. You got to figure that out.
Pass rush, sans Chubb.
Yeah, and sans Gregory for the most part.
Yeah. Then I get to see Gregory too much this year.
No.
So
we saw him, just not on the field.
No, I was in the cafeteria. Yeah, walking around.
Yep, come hang out in the office.
Say hello. It's nice guy.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with Draymond Jones? What are they going to do? That's a big decision. So those are 3 nice decisions that we're going to discuss here on this episode, and that's going to be really
no
nice.
other decisions that they have to make, so that's good.
If they handle those 3 properly, boom.
You start measuring like ring sizes, or what do you do?
They already have mine.
They got it.
Yeah. 2015.
Your finger is still the same size?
Same size.
Wow.
Yeah. I know that because I wear a wedding ring. It hasn't changed.
The wedding ring kind of just like shapes around your hand, right?
Well, it's not like tighter or it's not.
I think they say that after you've worn a wedding ring for like a while, your finger gets like smaller, like it stays in the shape of the ring.
What?
Yeah, I don't know where you're reading your stuff. What medical journal was that?
Yeah, I'll provide citations.
Yeah.
I don't know how to.
Wow, I didn't know that. I do think that like the area where the ring is kind of like looks different than the rest of your finger.
Yeah,
Not tanned. Yeah.
Well,
no, but it's like indented a little.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But like my finger side, like it still slides off, and like the rest of my fingers look the same as.
But like so I don't know about you. My 2 ring fingers are about the same size. When I first got the ring,
you could take it off and put it on
the other one. Now it feels weird on the other one because it doesn't have that like indent that you're talking about.
Yeah. But it'll still go on to the other one.
Yeah. Well,
so it's probably the same size.
Guess we'll have to see.
Yeah. You got fat fingers over there?
They're muscular from all that typing.
Oh, yeah.
They've just been building up.
Yeah, that's true.
Like the Broncos part ways with another head coach.
Yeah.
Like I just had to type that so many times.
Do you think that when people have like typed on a typewriter, like their fingers were stronger? Like an old typewriter, not one of those fancy ones. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of dinging.
You have to like press it and then.
So much dinging.
Yeah. A lot of dinging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's probably good on the
You wear a nice wrist guard when you're doing that or no?
Of course I do.
Yeah.
Yo.
Got to keep the wrists.
Get injured.
Gotta keep the wrists in
nice
line.
And
straight.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't want a typo or something,
No, that would be really bad.
That'd be bad. That used to be a big deal on a typewriter,
Yeah.
Oh, why did I do that?
Yeah. Back then, you could just pass it off as, that was an accident that I put a comma there. Now, harder for you to explain why
I love
words
commas.
are in certain orders and
mix it up.
Commas all
mix
over
it
the
up.
place.
Have a little fun with it. That's what I always say. That's sort of my motto, Eric. So
what's your motto?
To mix it up.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, keep it spicy.
That's
just like in the salad bar.
Yeah.
Mix it up. You mix up your salads?
At the end.
Yeah.
The end.
That's true. All right, so those are our 3 topics on this show. But, Eric, before we get into that, we must tell people how they can get involved in the show.
We must.
We have to.
We have to. It's contractually obligated.
Yes, all of our sponsors.
Yep.
We'd get no
They'd be
money.
grumpy.
Yeah.
For one ways, you could leave an email at neutralzoneshow@gmail.com. Do a little typey type, hit send, boom, Ben Swanson gets it.
Like we have one coming up later.
We do.
Yeah.
It's called a tease.
It's nice.
Or, Phil, you can leave a voicemail at 707-NEUTRAL. Call in.
707 neutral.
Leave a voicemail. We'll play it right here on the air. Ben Swanson has been lamenting.
What's that? We haven't gotten it.
We need some. We need them.
Since
nice to hear
our
from
friend Jan won a contest, we have not gotten an email or a voicemail.
Also important to note that we do the podcast on Thursdays, so we need the before Thursday, because if you send it on Thursday after we record the show, then it's just not
Too old.
Yeah.
It's old.
Yeah.
We get some of
Technically, it's
those.
always before a Thursday, right?
technically. But how about
Unless
getting
the-
him in
unless
during
the
the week
rapture
before
happens.
Thursday? Yeah, that's true.
That would be really bad.
Yeah, that would not be. But if that happened, please call too. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah. How do you think that would impact that schedule?
Yeah, you love.
Bill might be doing the show by
Like the
himself.
Broncos could be 3-0 if the rapture doesn't happen.
Yeah. That's always in that, like a little asterisk at the bottom.
Yeah. Pending rapture.
Pending rapture. Yeah, of course. You can also hit us up on Twitter, huh?
That's right.
At Eric Dalala with an A.
Yes.
At Phil Milani with a PH.
That's correct.
Swanson, how would you characterize those?
Those are non-traditional spellings, I would say.
I gotta get back to Swanson every so often, just make sure he's listening.
Yeah, he barely was
paying attention. Yeah, he's got his laptop in the studio here. I don't know what's going on.
I'm watching a movie.
Yeah,
Glass Onion, what are you watching?
Yeah.
yeah. Or you could leave a comment on our Twitter page or our YouTube page.
Work is one of the best times to watch movies, I think.
Yeah. Glass Onion.
Yeah.
That could be up for some awards.
Yeah. Emmy?
Is a neutral
Maybe.
zone up for any awards?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
We are an
don't-
Emmy submitted podcast.
We don't submit. They ask. They're like,
they're like,
please,
please. And we're like, no, we
please.
don't want
They're
the,
like,
we don't do it
want
for that.
Too much attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. It's kind of like Dion. He doesn't chase the bag.
The bag chases him. Oh. Dang.
Similar situation
Dang.
with the neutrals.
What do you think about week 0, huh?
They said no.
No.
The Pac-12 said, "Nice try. You can't do that." That's what they said.
Well, has
Because
Dion responded?
Because
Because
people aren't
he's
familiar.
going to be 8 toes down against the Pac-12.
CU is scheduled to open up the season against TCU.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah, TCU still reeling
Bad.
after
Yeah.
Georgia beat down.
Would you say that was a...
They got rocked. Yeah, they got rocked.
I would say that's a super rock.
That was
a big-
That was
yeah,
the
that was a
same
super
thing
rock. That
as
was a
what happened to
boulder.
the Broncos against the Raiders, according to you. Both got rocked.
Yes.
9 points,
Rocked.
57 points.
Yeah, that was a
Both
super
rocked.
rock. Rock and roll. I don't know. That didn't land.
So the Buffs are opening
So-
with TCU.
Opening with TCU. And Dion was like, I don't know if I like that.
Smart, good play.
He tried to schedule a game with Arizona State for week 0.
Mm-hmm.
Sneak one in there.
Yeah.
They both sides agreed to it, but then the Pac-12 stepped in and said, you can't do that.
Wow, too many viewers. We don't want that.
We don't want good.
We don't want good ratings.
Yeah, we don't want nice.
Please do this at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, or 10 p.m. Pacific time.
They're like, we
Midnight
must
East-
put this in a
Eastern
window
time.
where no one can watch
Yeah.
it.
And it's on Fox Sports 2.
You got to subscribe to Paramount Plus, Hulu Plus, YouTube Plus,
All of them.
and Pac-12 Network.
I'm like, thank you for trying to watch this game. Please enter your passwords for all streaming services.
All 7 streamings, and then it unites into one stream, and then you can watch the Buffs.
And of course, double authentication.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
Well, I went to
long
a
time.
local sports bar, a watering hole.
Pub?
Yeah, and a nice pub, a place that you would expect to have sports. And I said, hey, can you put Pac-12 Network on? And they were like, we don't
know
get
what
that.
is. Yeah.
And I was like, how is it possible that...
What do you think's going to happen with some of these sports bars now that YouTube TV is going to have the Sunday ticket?
I think they'll just get YouTube TV. I mean, these bars still have Prime.
Well, it's going to be interesting because so many bars had DirecTV forever.
Uh-huh.
Of course, Pac-12 Network is not on DirecTV, so that's sort of like the leading cause for not having Pac-12 TV.
Yeah.
That they all
Is
bars.
Pac-12 Network on YouTube TV?
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe Swanson could fact check that. But that was a big problem because every bar was like, we've got to have the NFL package. And so
They're going to
No
have.
bar
They're
has
still going to
Pac-12.
have YouTube.
they're going to,
Maybe they'll play the
of course
neutral
they will.
zone in between games.
YouTube and YouTube TV are different, but
That's what you think.
yeah, maybe they can combine.
Maybe they could be the same thing.
Eric,
Speaking of YouTube,
speaking, that's very nice.
Nice segue.
Enjoyed that.
I've done
we
this
got a
before.
couple of comments here from last week's show. Excel, dude. Excel.
Swanson,
Like
that the guy that
Is-
messed up your electricity?
No. This is a Microsoft Excel.
Oh, got it.
His avatar is the same as the Microsoft Excel.
How do you know it's a him?
Or, well, it says Excel dude. That's the handle. So,
Got it. I think women can be dudes.
Are you? I don't know. Is that? I'm asking you. Like,
I think so. I think you can say like,
in
hey,
earnest.
dude.
Is that a?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'd say a dude's just a cool person, right?
Yeah. It's more of a kind of a mindset.
Yeah.
That's a dude. A dude is a
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. This person, Excel dude.
How do you know it's a person?
It could be. I don't know. If you
Just
leave
kidding.
a comment, do you have
kidding.
to say I'm not a robot? Which of these images does not have a stop sign in it?
Okay, but
You know what I'm saying?
just because you're not a robot doesn't mean you're a person, right? You could be a lot of things.
Oh, got it.
Maybe a
Maybe a dog,
a
log
well-trained parrot.
No opposable thumbs. Excel dude says, whatever Excel dude is. If the Broncos offense gained a yard for every time the podcast says non-traditional spellings, we would finish the season as the 30th ranked offense, which is a little confusing. Then Dave Thomas
Why did we
replied,
spend so much time? I regret talking about that person's name for so long.
Dave
That comment
Thomas
makes no sense.
Dave Thomas replied and said, "Yeah, man." I don't know why he said "man," but yeah, man. You mean first? Great setup, but you bombed.
Ooh,
So some
you
infighting.
got rocked.
Yeah, some infighting here. Metambali, our good friend, comments and says, "What do you call three potters? Three potters.
Potters.
DDERS.
Oh,
Potters.
3 Potters.
Come on, you can get this one.
Tripod, I think.
Right? I think try potters.
Swanson with his beard is a Harry Potter.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's true.
You like that?
That was nice.
Thanks.
Quick and good delivery.
Podcaster, Harry.
Wow, that was nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, anything else you wanted to talk about before we get into it?
I don't think so. I think I'm
Think
ready.
that was enough?
Yeah.
We'll end on the Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That was good. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into our first topic on this episode of the Neutral Zone.
The
First
most
decision.
important.
This is the most important one. The first decision the Broncos have to make this offseason is which coach are they going to hire?
Yeah.
They've reportedly done a lot of interviews in a short amount of time. We've got
Right.
some more scheduled.
As of recording this, Phil, there's been 4, right?
4 in 3 days, I believe.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And a conversation with
Busy.
Sean Payton.
Yeah, and a conversation.
Just so people know, Sean
Not
Payton.
an official interview.
No, a conversation.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh,
Jim Harbaugh, yes.
Giro Evero,
Yes.
David Shaw,
Yes.
and Jim Caldwell.
Yeah.
Notably, 4 of those 5 people, and obviously Sean Payton not an interview, 4 of those 5 people have former head coaching experience.
Yes. Ejiro Evero is the only one
Right.
who does not.
Yes.
David Shaw's head coaching experience, collegiate. But very nice at Stanford.
Yes.
And we also should note that David Shaw and Jim Harbaugh are very close.
We should.
We should note that.
Yeah.
David Shaw was on Jim Harbaugh's staff.
Took over
at
for
San
Jim
Diego,
Harbaugh, of course.
Went to Stanford with him and then took over for him.
Yeah.
So
Both of those,
close connection.
both coached Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck. Not
Luck.
Drew Luck.
Did Jim Harbaugh coach Andrew Luck?
Yes, he
Yeah,
did.
he did.
Yes, he did.
They
He
each
recruited.
got a couple years
Yeah,
there.
he got a little bit. Yeah.
That's
Takes-
nice.
Yeah.
A little sampling.
Yeah. I do believe that Harbaugh is credited for getting Andrew Luck out of Texas to Stanford.
He said, we have a lot of concrete here.
Yeah.
Andrew was like, sign me up.
Of course, Andrew Luck's still at Stanford.
That's true.
Jim Harbaugh and David Shaw no longer at Stanford, but he's there.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes you
Makes
think.
you think. Yeah.
Makes you think.
And it has been well reported, Phil. Obviously, Condoleezza Rice is on the search committee.
That has been confirmed by Greg Penner.
Yes, it has.
Not just
It has.
reported, but also
I didn't
fact.
say reported.
You said it was well reported.
Well, okay.
Well reported.
Okay. Just because, like, someone can say something, then you can report that they said that, right?
Okay, that's good. You're reporting what Greg Penner is
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like someone's like,
Perfect.
hey, this person's not going to play this week. You're like, I'm reporting live here that this person's not going to play.
Not going to play.
Can be confirmed, but also reported.
Both.
And of course, Greg Penner, Kerry Walton Penner, went to business school. Stanford, have a connection there.
There's a lot of overlapping.
There's some interesting connections with Stanford.
Yes. A lot of Stanford going on.
But, Phil, the Broncos must make the right decision.
They've got to make they're not done yet, right?
No.
No. They still got some more interviews that.
Yeah, as we mentioned.
Reportedly, Dan Quinn.
Yes, reportedly.
Reportedly.
Not confirmed, but reportedly.
Yeah. D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans, yep.
Raheem Morris.
Yep, and Sean Payton.
I
don't think I've seen other names.
Those are all the.
I would give you.
That's a lot of
7, 8.
Of course, famously,
7.
the Broncos interviewed 10 people last time around.
8?
I think 8.
The Broncos have reportedly done 4.
And they've got 4 more to go, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Sean Payton was just a conversation.
I forgot about the Dan Quinn. But of course,
Dan Quinn.
we don't want to do that.
You don't forget about Dan Quinn. No. That happened last time. They kind of forgot about Dan Quinn, and then.
Yeah, that one happened.
Yeah. I don't know. So that's 8 people.
Yeah.
A lot of experience.
6 of those reported candidates have prior head coaching experience, 7 at the NFL level.
And 1 is in-house currently.
Who does not, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good mix there. What do you think about how they've handled this so far? I mean, it seems like they've relied on some of their resources, guys that they're familiar with, and then, of course, gone out and found guys who have had NFL experience, and they're not wasting any time.
No, definitely not wasting any time. They're doing these quickly. They're getting information. I like that they are kind of focusing on these experienced candidates. I think that's what this team needs. I think that, and that's not to say that Giro Evero or D'Amico Ryans couldn't, blow it away and earn a chance. But I do think based on what Greg Penner said about we need a CEO, a leader, someone focused on accountability, discipline, those things I think are easier to do when you've done it before and you have a good sense of what's coming. And I think it was Garrett Bowles last week who said, or this week, who said it's hard when you have a first-time head coach and they are trying to figure everything out and implement everything. When you have a guy that's done it before, it's much easier. I like, Phil, that they've kind of kept this process close to the vest. I mean, these candidates' names have gotten out, but David Shaw was reported last night as we're recording this.
Back right in there.
And it was kind of like, this is done. This already happened. There wasn't a lot of speculation beforehand. Same with Jim Caldwell. You're not hearing, like last year, there were kind of whispers of like, oh, this interview went really well, or this didn't go well. You're not hearing any of that. It's all being kept very close to the vest. You like that, or? I do. I think that it shows a maturity in how you're running the process and understanding of, how to not let things become biased in the media toward one candidate or another. I would say last year there were probably more just like whispers about interviews and what was going on and how the search was going. And I do feel like they've kept things pretty close here. And
last year it felt like there was a little bit more hoopla. Like, hey, the Broncos traveled to like go see all these people in person.
We're
it was
in
like
Green
a big
Bay.
Deal. Yeah. It was like a big deal. They're like, we have to see him in the room.
Yeah.
And like there was like much made about like, oh, when Nathaniel Hackett walks into the room, there's so much energy. You just don't get that over Zoom.
Yeah.
And then they like were flying all over, and there was just a lot made about it. This year it sort of just seems like dialed down a lot.
Yeah.
Even though the names are a little bit more high profile.
Yeah. And I think probably some of that comes from the fact that you have someone leading this search and Greg Penner, who has made these decisions before and run high-level searches and has, as much as I think the Broncos empowered George Payton to run this process last year, it was the first time he's ever doing that, leading that process. And so I think to have the experience that Greg Penner brings has been helpful. And I think it's quite possible you get through all these interviews and don't hear much about what's going on. And then, you might not hear what's happening until it's reported that a candidate's in the building for a second interview.
Yeah, what do you think? That was another thing that was a big deal last year was like, oh, they did these in person and then they had these follow-ups and then there was like 3 interviews before they made a decision. Do you think the Broncos will do the same thing this year?
Well, they only did a second interview with Nathaniel Hackett.
Well, I think they did 3 with him.
Right, but nobody else got it.
Nobody else got those. Yeah. But like the fact that they did 3 with Hackett.
I would think you would want to get that person.
Went to Los Dos, what was it?
Ortiz, I think, right?
Yeah.
I would think you would want to get this person in the building just to get a sense of them in person, spend a whole day with them, see how they interact with different members of the organization. I do think that's important, and I would expect that to happen. I mean, obviously, we don't know that for sure. I mean, it's possible you just say, "Hey, this is our guy, and we're going to move forward." But I would think that at some point you would have whoever, and whether it's one person or multiple candidates, have them in the building to meet with people.
I think there's different ways to go about it, and I think it just depends on what your team needs in that moment. Like I do remember when the Broncos went out and hired John Fox, they were really transparent about the process, and that's just because they wanted the fans to feel like they could be like trusted again and like that they were doing their diligent, their homework and stuff and like doing this process in earnest. I think that was good for that time, and it feels like right now the Broncos just need like Greg Penner to lead this search and to just go about their business and then just make a decision. Like this feels very appropriate for where the Broncos are at right now.
Yeah, it doesn't need a lot of hype. It doesn't need a lot of hoopla. Like you said, it just needs to get done and the right decision needs to get made. And obviously, whoever you pick, Phil, sets the tone for what this team is going to be moving forward. Do you go with a defensive-minded coach? Do you go with someone who has experience on the offensive side? Is this person going to be a player-friendly coach that kind of hypes guys up? Is this going to be a disciplinarian, somebody that maybe a little more stern? I mean, those things are going to determine what you're going to do moving forward and what the identity of this football team is going to be. So it's, we're talking about what are the offseason decisions. I think, truthfully, the answers to these other decisions are going to depend on what do you do here at the coaching position. Yeah,
most definitely. This decision sort of dictates all the other decisions, but just based off of a gut feel or just speculation, where do you think things stand right now amongst all these guys?
I mean, just based on like what media is kind of saying, I would think that Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton and Dan Quinn are kind of the 3 favorites. If you go with Jim Harbaugh, I think there was an Athletic article this week about, maybe do you try to get Greg Roman in here from the Ravens, who was his offensive coordinator in San Francisco? Do you keep a Giro Evero, who runs the Vic Fangio-style defense? Do you bring Vic Fangio back? I think if you went in that direction with Harbaugh, you would probably try to build a run-first football team, be a hard-nosed, kind of tough, beat teams up, essentially. I think that would be the style, the identity. If you go with a Sean Payton, obviously more offensive-minded, maybe you bring in an OC that's worked with Russell Wilson before. I think that team would be more like scheme dependent as opposed to like have an identity of toughness. And then I think if it were Dan Quinn, obviously he's a defensive guy. He, I think, is viewed more as this player-friendly coach, really calm, nice guy. I think I heard someone on the radio describe this. His personality is a lot like Nathaniel Hackett, but maybe just more polished in terms of understanding what it takes to be a head coach. So, a lot of guys in this locker room love Nathaniel Hackett and like the positivity that he brought. And so if you want to go with that positive, uplifting type of candidate, but who has done it before, then maybe Dan Quinn fits in that mold. But I would say where things stand right now from the knowledge that we've heard and we've seen, those 3 guys seem to be the maybe just
favorites.
The favorites, a little bit of a step above everybody else.
And those are the guys that like the players have been asked about, when they were cleaning
Russell
up their
Wilson
lockers.
Brought up Dan Quinn on his own.
Oh yeah, I guess he brought up Dan Quinn in his press conference after the game.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me because like Jerry Rosberg obviously is very close with the Harbaugh family. He was asked about Jim Harbaugh last week and just talked glowingly about him.
Yeah.
Said that sometimes they say it's the Ross Baws.
Yep, or Harburgs.
Harburgs. Kind of like if we were like the Delanis.
Yeah.
You know, Milala.
Or the Milalas.
Yeah. That's sort of what that's how we view things, right?
That would be really nice.
That is how it is, though. That's...
Of course.
Yeah. And then Russell Wilson said that he didn't know Harbaugh as well. Of course, there's some battles there from the 49ers and Seahawks days. But he talked glowingly about his time with Sean Payton.
Sean Payton?
And talked about how at the Pro Bowl, talked about how this guy is just a genius.
Yep.
And he spoke very highly of Sean Payton. So,
and he also brought up Dan Quinn, who he spent time with in Seattle.
Yeah. Different side of the ball.
Yeah.
But,
I'm sure you build relationships.
Yeah. But Russ was very young when he was there, so different guy now. But
that's true.
Both are probably very different.
There's this sentiment, I saw one column this week, that Sean Payton may be the guy that Russell Wilson wants, but Jim Harbaugh might be the guy that he needs.
Ooh.
What do you think about that?
It could be. What I'll say about that is I think that Russ in the past has talked about watching film of Drew Brees. And so I do think there's a natural connection there between Russ and Drew because of their stature, but they play different styles of football. But there's maybe that sort of idea that Russ wants to be more of a pocket passer, wants to play this way because obviously he'll put up big numbers and he'll stay healthy if he's throwing from the pocket. And so he watches a lot of Drew Brees film. And then obviously Sean Payton and Drew Brees had a lot of success together. So maybe that's the guy, hey, if I can work with Sean, I could be like Drew Brees. And that's the guy that he wants. But then there's the other side of the coin where Jim Harbaugh is this disciplinarian. He kind of runs the football team like the way he wants to, and he sort of builds this toughness like you talked about. And maybe that would be good for Russ to just have some of that toughness in his life because Pete Carroll was tough with Russ, and they had a lot of success in Seattle, won a Super Bowl playing that run first, style. And so maybe that's not what Russ necessarily wants, but for him to have a lot of success, that's what he needs.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the argument. And like you mentioned, run first would be a big thing, I would think, if Jim Harbaugh was the coach here. I think you'd rely on a guy like Javonte Williams.
It'd be like Bo Schembechler's,
right. You'd rebuild the offensive line. I think you'd feature some of that read option stuff that we've seen work well here in the last few weeks. And obviously the Broncos are still going to throw the ball and would still count on Russell Wilson to make big-time plays. But, you saw Michigan this year. They're taking shots down the field.
Some trick plays.
Yeah.
Didn't always work.
No. But, I think that's you think back to, okay, well, how did Russ have success in Seattle? And I think you think about that bully ball type style of offense at times, and that's what a Jim Harbaugh would bring.
Yeah. The one thing I would say about all of these candidates is that I think what's intriguing about Jim in particular that sort of sets him apart from the rest of them is the fact that he's done it in a lot of different places as the head coach, and he's built the programs up.
Yeah.
Like when he went to Stanford, built them up. Obviously, the 49ers had some tough times, and then he came in and made them relevant almost immediately.
Yes, immediately. Right?
Yeah, his first year,
13-3.
13-3, and then the second year they went to the Super
Bowl.
Yeah, so, and then of course he's gotten Michigan into the college football playoff. They've beaten Ohio State the last 2 years, so.
Yeah, I would say the questions about Jim are more like, how sustainable is it? Just because you've seen
he's bounced around a little bit.
He's bounced around a little bit.
Yeah, he's not everyone's cup of tea.
And he, spent some time at Stanford, spent some time at the 49ers, spent a long time here at Michigan now. So it's quite possible that would be in Denver for an extended period of time. But I do think when you look at it, he didn't have a losing season in 4 years in the NFL, has one of the best win percentages in the history of the game, made 2 NFC championship games in 4 years. That's success that Sean Payton, obviously, he's a guy that won a Super Bowl, but they also had a stretch of 3, 7, and 9 seasons in there. So it wasn't always good. And then obviously Dan Quinn kind of struggled a little bit toward the end without Kyle Shanahan as the OC. But Phil, that's part of it. When you hire a guy who's been a head coach before,
their last job ended.
You correct. Something happened.
Something happened.
One of our favorite sayings, and it's true.
But I would say just the thing that's appealing about Harbaugh is that he can come in and change things fast. And he's done that.
Yeah.
And so I do think that if he'd come in here, things would change really quickly just in terms of the feel of the whole building. That in the past has led to success on the football field. Yes. So that is one thing that I think is really intriguing about Jim Harbaugh.
Well, and Sean Payton did the same thing. I'm trying to pull up the stats. Swanson, maybe you could pull up the Saints before Sean Payton got there and after, but I believe they had a really quick turnaround as well.
How long was he there before Drew got there?
I think, I don't know.
Same. What's the same?
He joined the same year. What were the Saints the year before?
2005. They were 3-13. They went to 10-6 in Payton's first year. They lost in the conference title game.
So they made an NFC championship in year 1.
I think that just the nervous thing about him is just he obviously got the most out of Drew Brees, and but he worked with a Hall of Fame quarterback for a long time there. And
yeah, but also Drew was coming off a big injury and was going to get replaced regardless of the injury, right? In San Diego.
San Diego, yeah.
So
Philip Rivers was.
I mean, Drew Brees is not a Hall of Famer unless he does what he did with Sean Payton.
Exactly.
So
I mean, Nick Saban and the Dolphins passed on him.
Right. Hard to separate.
Who the chicken and the egg.
Exactly. Who's the chicken here?
Egg. I mean, it's hard to find eggs these days.
I heard that.
Oh, it just makes you wonder.
Yeah.
But
Swanson, we can just go to Swanson's house. So he has
some chickens.
30 chickens back there. Hens.
30.
I don't know where this is coming from or going.
Be nice. I mean, I'd take one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An egg or a hen?
A hen.
I would let Swanson handle the maintenance of the hens.
Maybe Vaughn could come help.
That's true.
It would be nice. So yeah, I just think that I would say that even Harbaugh and Payton are sort of in a different tier in terms of the favoriteness. So we'll have to see. When do you expect?
There is this sense that Dan Quinn and George Payton would work the best together. That would be kind of a nice pairing, which is what has put him, I think, at least close to those guys in terms of potential options. If Greg Penner says, hey, I really believe in George Payton, I want him to be the guy moving forward no matter what, and we want to just build things around George, Dan Quinn, I think, makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah. But that's not the sense I got from Greg when he talked to the media. He was just sort of like, I'm going to lead this, like he's like, they just want to get the best guy for the job.
Yeah, no, of course. But I do think you have to consider, hey, how is this pairing going to work?
Yeah, of course. They got to work well together.
You want to make sure there's good collaboration.
Some of the best collaboration.
You want to make sure that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
So I do think just like and there are, I think, pros to having a guy that builds people up and is positive energy. There's value there. So
yeah.
But I would say based on what we've seen that maybe Harbaugh and Payton are just a tick above Dan Quinn right now.
Yeah. And where the last thing, just where do you think like a Jim Caldwell or a David Shaw or like maybe some of these other guys that they haven't talked to yet, where do you think they? Yeah,
I mean, I think again, you want to have an open mind in case one of these guys comes in and blows you away. David Shaw is interesting. I would just be hesitant based on things did not end super great at Stanford. He did go into a program that Jim Harbaugh built, which I think you always have to be just aware of. If you don't build that from scratch, and then the fact that he's been a collegiate head coach.
Yeah, but he was good in the NFL with the Arizona for a while there as a not the head coach. You know what I mean? But as a part of a staff.
Yeah, I wonder if you need someone with NFL. Head coaching. And Jim Caldwell, I think Jim Caldwell would be a really good option. Obviously
he's kind of like a Dan Quinn-ish, right?
Yeah. Took a team to a Super Bowl. Took the Lions to the playoffs, right? Did they make the playoffs or
yes?
They
I think so.
went
I think
9-7,
playoffs.
and they decided that wasn't good enough, and then
Yeah,
a lot of bad things happened.
And you hear a lot of good things about Jim Caldwell.
Yeah, just a steady person, not going to waver. I think there's a chance you talk to him and you're like, hey, this Jim Caldwell could be a really good candidate.
Yeah.
I do think the Broncos are being intentional with who they interview and are not just doing any of these for the sake of just doing it.
I'm sure that Peyton Manning had something to say about Jim Caldwell.
Yeah, he of course played for Jim in Indianapolis. Went to a Super Bowl with him.
Yeah. And I think it just makes sense to involve the Broncos family in this decision. I've talked about that in the past.
That's Ben Swanson, what he thinks.
Yeah. And he was like, well, what about me?
Yeah. Stop it.
Did you do a Zoom yet, or how did that go?
Well, I'm in the building.
It's not been reported.
I would hope they
Not
would
been
just be like,
reported.
all right, we'll do a Zoom.
You sit in your office. We'll sit next door in the conference room.
Yeah, and we'll call it a nice little session.
Phil, I'll be interested to see, obviously, the big decision here. I'll be interested to see what the timing is.
Yeah, I was going to say. What do you think?
Broncos cannot interview Sean Payton until next week. So I would be really surprised if a decision comes next week. And then you look at the week after, the week of the 23rd, maybe that's when people start. Do you have people in for a second interview? Maybe that happens early next week. So I would think the earliest a decision would be by the end of the week of the 23rd.
Okay.
That's my
What
guess.
you think?
That's
Okay.
my guess. And everything, it sounds kind of late, but everything just gets shifted back now because the regular season goes on an extra week.
Yeah, of course. I do think that the Broncos, like you've said, they've been diligent in what they're doing, and I think they're moving forward at a pretty steady pace here. So I do think that, say they talk with Sean Payton on the 17th or something, I think they're going to move forward with some decisions.
Well, they've got
Some second interviews, maybe, and then
3 other interviews next week.
yeah,
So they got to find time for those. And the NFL does mandate when you can talk to people.
yeah. Yeah, I could see something either, like you said, the week of the 23rd, or if they were rushing it toward the end of next week.
Yeah. I would think that would be a little bit fast, but we'll see.
Get to work.
That's true.
Time to work.
That's true. You do. I mean, you want to be thorough and you want to make the right decision, but the competition for staffs begins right away. So
Yep.
if you want the best OC, you want the best defensive coordinator, you want the best quarterback coach, you got to get a move on.
Yeah, you got to get going.
Oh, we got some news here from Adam Schefter.
Oh,
Swanson.
Denver is scheduled to be the first team this month to have an in-person head coach interview with Sean Payton, per source. The Broncos and Payton are scheduled to meet Tuesday morning in Los Angeles.
Ooh. It's kind of news, right?
Yeah, that they're going to meet with him. Yeah. In Los. Well, we didn't know the
In
Los Angeles part.
really important, yeah.
Maybe right there in the Fox Studios.
See,
Huh?
that's
Think?
the 17th. So breaking, we knew the Broncos could meet with Sean Payton on the 17th.
They're
going to do it.
They're going to do it.
Swanson, thank God you brought that up.
You know what I like? After Adam,
What are they going to have for lunch? We got to wait for Kliss to tell us that.
that's what I was
a
going to say.
Kliss thing.
After Adam tweets something, 4 or 5 other local reporters are like, I confirmed this.
Yeah.
And then, but like me, I'm like, I don't need it confirmed. Adam confirmed it
Adam
when he
confirmed
tweeted it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't need you to confirm it.
They're not doing it for you.
Did it. Who are they doing it for?
They're bosses.
Yeah.
Can confirm. I saw
They should
Adam
add-
Schefter tweet.
Maybe they should tweet it before Adam does.
That would be a really good idea.
That's a
but
different
would you
approach,
believe it?
Yeah, if Mike did it, of course I would.
Right.
Parker? Yeah, of course I
The
would.
Snow Dog?
Yes, the mayor.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking
Congrats,
about.
Dave. All right.
All right, well, let's move on to our second topic here, and that is finding an offensive identity. Of course, the head coach is going to play a big role in that, but Eric, we saw this Broncos offense take a little bit of form, have a little bit of life these last 2 weeks. Do you think that's the key to success here on that side of the ball? And what decisions do the Broncos need to make in order to find that identity?
Do I think scoring points is the key to having success?
What do you think? I mean,
Wow.
they ran the ball a lot.
They did.
Russ used his legs a lot.
Yep. Yeah, there's decisions.
Took some explosive plays. They took the easy ones.
The easy ones, the big ones, the hard ones, they did it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did it all.
A lot of 50
50 balls?
50-yard passes.
Oh, yeah. 3 1/2, according to
A
you.
lot. They did a lot of them.
Yep. How many in 1/2? How many you do?
It makes you. Sometimes you have to count
Conflicting-
it up.
conflicting
Sometimes you have to count
reports.
it up to get up to 3, and that's a lot. That's what I would say. That's what I have to say about that.
Obviously, there's a lot of different things you got to figure out here on offense. You got to figure out who's going to supplement your running back room while Javonte Williams tries to get back.
Supplements? What you said?
Supplement?
Yeah, like protein bars.
Uh-huh.
That kind of supplement.
The word is the same.
Vitamins.
Word's the same.
Oh, got it.
Supplements your nutrition.
Oh, Latavius Murray.
That could be an option. But, you gotta,
Latma. I saw someone on Twitter say call him Latma. I was like, oh, is that his nickname?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So you got to figure out the running back room. Obviously, hey, are you comfortable with the tight end group? A lot of different things. But I kind of view the offensive line and the wide receiving core as the two big places where you got to make decisions. And to start at wide receiver, you've got to decide, do you pick up Jerry Jeudy's fifth-year option? You got to make that decision by early May.
That feels like he answered that question.
He did. I would agree that I think that is a slam dunk at this point. I would not expect the Broncos to rush into that decision. They haven't done that under George Payton. They've waited until after the draft to make that call, or the middle of the draft.
Because Jeudy was sort of like on the trading. There were some rumors about him at the deadline this year.
Yeah, a lot of rumors.
And so.
Groomers.
Excuse me? I do think that he's come a long way since then.
Yes, he answered the bell.
Yes, and I think that he's wide receiver 1 at this point.
Yep.
And I think that you build around Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I think that midway through the season, you talk about the trade, but I think there was a decent chance that you could have gotten to this offseason and just not picked up his fifth-year option. I believe Mike Kliss reported it's around $12 to $13 million, so not a ridiculous amount, but also not insignificant. And so if you didn't believe,
nice amount.
It's a really nice amount. If you didn't believe that he was, going to be a big part of your future, I don't know that you do that. But clearly he's shown over the last month of the season how good he can be.
He's that guy.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say he's shown that he can be a number 1 receiver in this league.
Yeah.
He's
can
also
he be him.
Well, I don't know about that. That's to be
him.
Oh, yeah.
Is he different?
Oh, is he cool or is he different?
He's diff.
Not cool.
He's diff.
He's diff.
Okay.
He's built diff.
I do think Jerry playing this way kind of changes my opinion of what you need from this wide receiver room.
Oh.
When we talked about this 3 months ago, I don't know if we both said it, but I said it. They need a number 1 receiver.
Yeah, we both said that.
And I don't know that they need a number 1 receiver.
They got it.
I think they have a guy that can be the number 1 guy. I would look to add somebody with speed, somebody that can work out of the slot. Obviously, KJ Hamler was drafted to be that guy. It has not really worked out so far. I mean, we know KJ really wants to prove himself going into the final year of his rookie deal, but he's not scored a touchdown since toward the end of the 2020 season.
That Panthers game really is.
Yeah. It's been a little bit of a struggle.
Yes, it has.
For KJ. But I do think you need somebody, in that mold, or maybe kind of like a slot receiver that, I mean, obviously easy to say, like, let's just add good players, but like a Hunter Renfrow, that type of guy.
Yeah,
the Broncos don't
Crafty.
Really. Yeah, exactly. The Broncos do not really have that type of player. You've got Jerry, who's like this elite route runner. And you've got physical guys in Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, who's coming back. But I don't think you have that kind of like it may be a Chase Edmonds if you bring him back.
Chase Edmonds
could be used like that, or Greg Dulcich can be used like that. But I do think you need another piece, I think, even when you pick up Jerry's option.
Tim coming back, you're not. I assume Tim will come back like Tim, but you don't know for 100%.
You don't know for sure. And then it gets
Tim could be him.
Tim. Then it becomes a crowded room because you've got Jerry, you've got Cortland, you've got Tim, you've got KJ. I assume you're going to add somebody else, and so you wonder, what do you do with all those guys?
Yeah.
You're looking to add picks on draft weekend. Do you say, hey, maybe we move on from one of these guys, get some more capital to add to the roster in other areas?
Yeah.
That'll be something to watch for sure.
Yes. I would say heading into last year, you thought you were fine at wide receiver. Like you were like, there's a lot of talent here.
Yep.
But what actually unfolded this year was Jerry struggled at the beginning of the season. Cortland Sutton showed that he's not quite wide receiver number one, and he hasn't come back from that ACL the way that he's not quite the same guy that he was when before the ACL. And I still think that he could be that big body wide receiver that makes a lot of plays, but I don't think he's like your number one option. And I think that Tim Patrick got hurt and KJ Hamler battled injury all year long and never materialized. So what you thought was going to be like a strong room there, at the end of the year, it was like Jerry Jeudy, and then Cortland Sutton was still available, but not really Cortland Sutton, and then a bunch of unproven guys. And it was like a major liability. So I think that to avoid that, you do need to go get somebody to just be a guy in that room.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I don't know what that is. I don't know if you have to make a trade for a person. I don't know if you just need a Hunter Renfrow type, or if you need like a big time guy to like pair with Jeudy. I'm not sure what you do there, but adding a weapon there would make this offense a lot more explosive.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it's Tim when he comes back, but you don't know what that's going to be like for sure.
Right.
Some guys come back from the ACL and their explosiveness and everything is still there. Some guys, it takes longer. Some guys, it never comes back.
I feel more confident in Tim than others, just because Tim's game has never been to run by you.
Yeah.
And so it's not like dependent upon speed. He has sure hands and he makes contested catches.
But whatever speed was there, he was using all of it. I'll say that, right?
That's true.
And so maybe if that's not the same, I mean, that was the same as Cortland Sutton, right? He never was like this crazy fast separation kind of guy.
Right.
But he was using everything he had.
Yeah.
And that just didn't come back fully. Or it wasn't on the field last year. Maybe he could still work to get back to that, but that was not – Cortland Sutton did not look like Cortland Sutton to me. It seemed like maybe –
there were moments, obviously, like the catch against the Chiefs that got called back. That was like a play they were like, Cortland would have – that looks like what Cortland did in 2018.
But there were some times where he just wasn't a huge factor in games,
I agree.
And that's not who I think that he can be. He can be a really talented guy, but he was not that.
And again, I think it's going to depend on who is the coach. If you get a Jim Harbaugh, maybe you want more like big body guys that can run block, like a Tim Patrick, great run blocker.
Yep.
So maybe you've got more guys like Cortland or Tim. If you're running if it's Sean Payton, maybe you need a different skill set at wide receiver. I mean, I think Michael Crabtree was there with Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Big guy.
Yes.
I mean, that's I think where you go will depend on who the coach is, but in general, you do need to add a guy at that position, a big, it needs to be a focus in my mind.
What about like a tight end? Because obviously they had Vernon Davis with the 49ers. If Greg Roman is a part of this, they have Mark Andrews in Baltimore right now. If it's Sean Payton, they had who's the big guy? He went to Seattle.
Yeah.
Starts with like maybe with
Green
a G.
Bay, right?
Yeah. Who am I talking about? The
basketball player.
Yeah. Really
They all
good
play
tight
basketball.
end.
Jimmy Graham?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Graham.
We're proving again that having good players is good.
Yeah, but like at the tight end, I mean, what do you think about Albert O? What he had to say? He never really got a good answer why he was.
Yeah, it was
strange.
I think there were several comments. No one straight out like blasted anybody, but there were some comments kind of here and there where you're like, maybe the communication wasn't as good as it could have been from the previous staff. So obviously, I think open communication is going to be important moving forward. But yeah, I don't know if I view Alberto quite in that mold, but I think Dulcich could be a Jimmy Graham type guy. He's obviously not as big, like just from a bulk standpoint, but he hasn't been through an NFL
full off season
with
just lifting
just
and taking supplements
and getting his hamstring right.
And getting that, he was like, I got to figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
I was like,
injured.
It's a good idea.
The Broncos might want to figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
a lot of hamstrings.
He said it was in one area early in the season, different area, same hamstring, different area.
Oh,
yeah,
it's different.
Yeah, it's different. So, tight end is going to be something that I think there's talent on this roster, but getting more out of it.
Yep.
And then, of course, running back. I mean, I'm not sure how fast Javonte is going to be back. He might not be ready for week 1. Latavius Murray just finished up his 10th season in the NFL.
And it's not under contract.
Not under contract, but I think that he did a lot of things that maybe surprised some people.
Yeah.
Maybe enough to come back.
Chase Edmonds, I think he talked about
Edmonds.
He might need to restructure.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to have to figure out. I do think you need a guy that can. And Jim Harbaugh, if it's him, he kind of used that like bell cow one guy. Obviously, Frank Gore, Hall of Famer. So again, easier. Maybe you don't have a bell cow.
Frank Gore's a Hall of Famer, huh?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, he's going to be eligible in like 2040 because he just going to play forever. But I'm not convinced he's done.
Oh, really?
No, I am, but just kind of for the bit.
A lot of touchdowns.
Yeah.
A lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns.
But you do have to figure that out. And then offensive line.
Oh, that's the biggest area, I would say.
That is, well, yeah, because there's a lot of guys up there,
And they're big.
Yeah.
So it's
a lot of
definitely the biggest area. But Dalton Reisner?
Not under contract.
They got to make a decision there.
I mean, I would think Garrett Bowles and Quinn Miners are kind of like
they're back.
The guys that are firmly entrenched.
Oh, the other three, they got to figure it out.
Lloyd will be back and is under contract, but the Broncos, the current staff, chose not to
bring him back from IR.
Even though he was healthy, thought he was coming back. Again, not the communication there maybe wasn't great.
Well, they prioritized other areas where other injuries popped up.
Yes.
Which he said he understood that.
He did say he understood, but he was also told initially that he kind of thought he didn't even need to go on IR.
Yeah.
So I would think Lloyd would compete with somebody. I don't know if it's going to be just a given that he's going to start there.
Yes.
You need a left guard. We've said it for years, you need a right tackle.
Do you think Dalton Reisner is back?
If I had to guess, I would say no.
I would also say no.
But it doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. But there's such a lack of offensive linemen that come available and they get paid so much that I would think some team will look at Dalton Reisner and say, we need that guy and pay him a lot. And
just the way he was talking too, it sounded like he was saying goodbye.
Yeah.
That's the feel that I got.
He said a lot, I want to feel valued.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it seemed to me like he did not feel that here. And listen, the Broncos have had plenty of time if they wanted to try to work something out. Also,
and maybe this is just best for both sides too, because obviously Dalton was experiencing a lot of frustration.
What made that clear to you?
I think that the pushing, the shove. Would you call it a shove or a push?
I thought that was a joke.
And nobody's even reporting that he hugged
the media
Rippon after
the push.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
How are we even supposed to know that he did push him?
We don't really know what happened.
Deep fake.
Yeah. You cannot push your quarterback. I mean, that is still so ridiculous to me that even happened. I mean, that is.
If it happened.
And then for him to just like not even really own it, that was just all so terrible. And the fact that Greg Penner afterward was like, there was stuff going on away from the field that led us to remove Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
That, to me, if you put all of those things together and I just kind of think about it a little bit, I think, okay, this guy's not coming back.
You think it could be a high-level decision not to bring him back?
Yeah, I just think that I don't think it's happening. Yeah. So I use all of these clues.
I just think that this is it's been a mess on the offensive line this year. I think
55 sacks.
Nice. Fact check.
Justin Fields tied for the most in the NFL. You don't need a fact check that. You could just Google search right into my brain.
That would be scary.
Well,
got the ad blocker on?
just for Russ.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. 55 for Russ.
8
That's
more
not
for,
what you
for
said.
He
Brett.
tied Justin Fields.
That's not what you said.
8 more for Rip.
55 for Russ, and that tied Justin Fields. That's what I meant.
It's the
After
Google search
saying
didn't
something.
quite work into the text to speech didn't work.
Google Translate.
I think when I look at like really good offensive lines,
Tell me about him.
you want to hear
Do you think about
you
that?
wanna hear what
sometimes?
this is like?
You're like falling asleep. You're like, gosh, good offensive lines.
I think you fear some of those guys. Like they're scary.
Ooh.
They're scary.
Like a Munchak. You kind of get scared. When he played O-line, you were like afraid of that.
Like think of that Cowboys offensive line from a couple years ago. You're like
That's like everybody's like, when they say good O-line, I like that Cowboys.
that's because it was a good O line.
Yeah.
Like you think of Travis Frederick with his beard, and he's just like, you're like, I don't want to
Scary.
make that guy mad.
Normally, I'm scared of D linemen, but
Right.
you
Well,
want
I
some O linemen to be
Like
scared.
you heard
too.
Deshaun Williams talk
Gary
this week
Zimmerman?
about how, about how Tim Patrick has a defensive mindset on offense.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
you want your offensive linemen to have that defensive mindset. That like defensive linemen they're a little dirty sometimes.
Yeah,
they're
like
gonna get in
Derek
your
Wolfe.
face. You know, they're scary. They'll eat your
Nasty.
children.
A little nasty.
I want that from the O line too.
Yeah. They got to bring it.
They got to bring it. So
Our friend Sir Lloyd Cushenberry, the third,
yeah,
he's a nice guy.
he's very nice.
He's a really nice guy.
And obviously, all these
Doesn't
guys
necessarily
can
bring.
turn the switch on during games.
But you want it all the time.
I want somebody that's gonna just punish. Like if they hit
scary.
they find a corner or a linebacker out there on the edge, boom, end them.
Maybe a little unhinged. Like you're like, is this guy okay? That's what you want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you want that guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
Like you.
exactly.
I want all of my offensive
crazy.
linemen to be like Derek Wolfe,
right on the edge.
right on the edge.
Yeah. Where you're just sort of like, I don't know what's going to happen here, but
But I'm gonna like it.
I like it. Yeah. But then no pushing the quarterbacks.
No,
No, we don't want that.
that would be bad.
But I agree. A little bit of nasty, I think, would be good for this team.
Yeah,
They kind of have some personality where they, you're like, this is the strong. I guess what I would eventually like to see from this Broncos team is to just be like, this is the strength. This position group, this is the strength, and build around that. So, like, if that's the offensive line, that would be good. But also, I think that you can't just be like the Tennessee Titans and be like, we've got a really good offensive line and we've got a really good running back, and this is how we're going to win games. Because eventually you're going to need that explosive part of your offense. So
yeah. I mean,
I guess you want it all to be good, but
they had that, and then they were like, actually, we don't want AJ Brown.
yeah, that's true. That was interesting. And then they were like, oh, Tannehill, we need to draft another quarterback.
Yeah,
So
like a Tom Nalen
yeah, you need guys like that.
draft ring of favors. I think that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. Kind of the Von Miller theory, huh?
It's kind of
Having good players.
But I do think that finding
It's a mindset.
dominant offensive lineman this offseason is a must.
And I do think, again, that we talk about the coaching. If you bring in a guy like Jim Harbaugh, I would be shocked if the offensive line is not priority number one. Just rebuilding that, having an identity, because you're right, you can't just be that, or else you lack the ability to blow games open, I think. But it's got to start there.
Yeah.
And you think about like really good football teams, especially the physical ones, like, you think about the Ravens when they were in their prime, or other teams that were built to run the football. It's got to start up there. And so if it were Jim Harbaugh, I would think that would be a huge priority. If it's Sean Payton, if it's somebody else, maybe it's not as much of a priority. Maybe you focus more on the skill positions if you're going to have this like finely tuned passing attack. But certainly if Jim Harbaugh ends up the coach, I would think there would be a strong emphasis on fixing the offensive line. And that does need fixing.
It does.
People ask, hey, Russ, do you need fixing?
The offense, he's like, look at my offensive line.
He did not say that.
No, he didn't. But we'll say it. We'll say it. And I don't know if like a good right tackle is going to be available at the end of the first round.
No, and you might have
people might just say, just draft a guy in the first round. I don't think it's that easy.
No, I mean, someone could fall. You never know, especially if there's a run on quarterbacks early. That always helps. Yeah, I mean, the Broncos have a lot of, and it's not just right tackle. There's other needs that they have.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have to add a guy in free agency, a big name guy. And you're probably going to have to overpay because
that's what
these guys, that's what happens.
Yeah.
But because you can't also start 3 rookies on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And you don't have the picks to do that anyway.
Yeah.
So something's got to happen.
Something's got to happen. The last thing is, obviously the success of this offense will ultimately rest on Russell Wilson's shoulders.
Yes.
Would you go out and get a guy then who's had success, proven success at the NFL level with Russell Wilson? Or if you're like Jim Harbaugh, would you just be like, I'm going to try and get Greg Roman here and that's just what it's going to be? Or would you go out and be like, I need somebody who's had a track record with Russ?
Yeah, I think if you are going to run a timing system, or you're going to throw the ball a ton and you're going to try to operate from the pocket, or you're just going to build a passing game around Russ, I would go the route of someone that has worked with him before, a Schottenheimer, a Darrell Bevell in Miami. Those are options. But if it's Harbaugh, I do think he can look at what he's done and say, hey, this has worked with a variety of quarterbacks. We've been able to have success with a foundational run game, play action passing, and Jim Harbaugh has studied Russell Wilson from his time playing the Seahawks, that he knows what Russ does well and what doesn't work. So,
and Greg Roman's had success with guys like Lamar Jackson, Colin Kaepernick,
Alex Smith.
These are mobile guys who can also throw it.
So I would say if it were Jim, you probably are fitting Russ into that system and saying, this is what we're doing. If it's a Sean Payton or a Dan Quinn and you're bringing in an outside guy and maybe, obviously Sean Payton is going to try to, I would be really interested to see if it's Sean Payton, do you try to make Russ into Drew Brees and operate from the pocket in this quick passing game, or do you adapt your offensive system? Yeah. And if it's Dan Quinn, maybe you look at a Bevell, a Schottenheimer to see, hey, can we recapture? Because obviously offense is not going to be Dan Quinn's specialty. So do you bring someone in that has had success with Russell before? And that would give you a really good sense of, hey, is it the scheme? Because I do think watching the last 2 weeks, and, you don't want to take shots at somebody who's lost their job, obviously, but there's reason to believe that maybe it was not Russ.
Yeah.
Based on how much success he had the last couple of weeks. 4 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, a couple of interceptions, one of which was fluky, but he had a lot of success here over the last 2 weeks, and you expand that out, it's 34 touchdowns over the year. It's 15 rushing touchdowns. That's really good.
Yes.
And so I do think you probably believe that, hey, if you get somebody in place, Russ can have that success again, and maybe it just didn't work here with Nathaniel Hackett.
In his post-game press conference, he kind of smirked a little and was like, we recaptured that magic.
Yeah.
You love to see it.
But yeah, Russ is obviously going to be a big piece of this. And whoever the coach is, going back to that for a second, they're not going to come here unless they have a plan for Russ and everybody's on the same page about, I would think George Payton, Greg Penner, they'll ask, hey, what's your plan with Russell Wilson? And you're going to pick the coach that you think is going to be the best coach for the whole team, but you're also probably picking, hey, who has the best plan here for us?
Yeah.
Because you've made a significant investment in Russell Wilson. And so if the answer is, we'll figure it out with Russ, or I don't think Russ is really I don't think we can save him, I'd be surprised if that person is chosen.
Yes. And George Payton was asked that directly in his end of season press conference after Nathaniel Hackett was fired. He was like, it's not just about Russ, it's about coaching the whole team. Yep. But I do think that the success of this team is you got to have that dynamic relationship there.
Yes.
So that'll be important. Our final topic on this episode of The Neutral Zone is what are the Broncos going to do with Draymond Jones? A big decision here coming up with how would you describe Draymond Jones? Maybe their best interior lineman this past season on the defensive side?
Probably for most of the year. DJ Jones was...
He was good. Really he was solid. DJ Jones came in and did what DJ Jones is supposed to do.
Yeah, and had a few sacks. DJ Jones, I think it's hard to underrate what he did from the run game standpoint. But in terms of pass rushing, playmaking ability, Draymond Jones did not end up with, or I guess he did end up with the most sacks. He does have kind of a different level of athleticism from a pass rushing standpoint.
Potential.
I think the thing with Draymond that you've seen for years now is that he's got so much potential, and you see it in flashes where he'll have a 2.5 sack game. He'll have a 2 sack game. He'll have 3 weeks in a row with a sack. But then there's just long stretches where it doesn't happen. And he started really fast this year. I think he was at 5.5 pretty early in the season.
Quick.
And for him, that was big because before the year, he didn't like questions about, hey, you've had strong finishes. How do you start fast? And
Who asked him about that?
I think it was me. He didn't like it. He didn't like that question. And he started fast this year, but then it just stopped. And after Bradley Chubb left, I think he maybe had one more sack. I mean, it was not...
Is that fact check true?
It's true.
What did he finish with? How many?
6.5.
Yeah, that's not...
And that's the team lead, right?
Mm-hmm. He had 5.5 by week 8.
The team lead cannot be 6.5 sacks.
Yeah.
It cannot be. And so you look at Draymond Jones and you say, okay, well, we see all this potential, but it hasn't been consistent enough. And then you think, okay, well, if Bradley Chubb's here and Randy Gregory's here, which is what...
Then it works.
That's right. That's how it was when Draymond Jones was getting these sacks. If Draymond Jones doesn't have all the attention, he can make this happen. If Draymond Jones is the best player on the field, maybe the sacks don't come as easily. And so you've got to decide, one, is that a guy that's worth bringing back? And what does that contract look like? And then are you willing to, if you decide he's worth bringing back and you can't get a deal done, is he worth franchise tagging? Because that's not going to be inexpensive. It typically means a 1 year. And obviously, the way it works for people who don't remember is at the end of February, you can choose to franchise tag somebody. You then have until the middle of July to work out a long-term deal. And then after that, they have to either play on the franchise tag or they don't play, which rarely happens.
They hold out.
But you have to, if Draymond Jones were to play on the franchise tag, rarely does a guy play on the franchise tag and then sign a long-term deal. I mean, it happened with Justin Simmons, but it's not common. And so you're kind of saying, okay, well, we're paying this amount of money for a 1 year rental. Are we in position where we think this is, that's like,
worth it?
Yeah, are we going to be a true contender next year where having Draymond Jones for a year is worth it? Do you find a way to, Draymond Jones, I would think he'd still have a solid market, but it's probably not as great as he thought it would have been at week 8. Mm-hmm. And so maybe you are able to get a long-term deal done. I do think he's still a talented football player that's helpful to have on your roster. But to me, Phil, when I look at it, I think he's got to be a supporting piece. And that if he cannot be the best player on your defense, on your front seven, you need Randy Gregory out there. If I were the Broncos, you got to strongly consider, I think, bringing in somebody else opposite Randy Gregory. Baron Browning is a nice player, but I don't know that he's like a top-level starter based on what we saw. Certainly can't be a number one guy. Nick Bonito needs to take a big jump next year because he, I think, 1.5 sacks. Did not have a great rookie year. And so I think, Draymond Jones can be a piece, but you've got to, the bookends at pass rush have to be better, and you need Randy to stay healthy, and you need a guy there. It's funny because you just traded him, but you need a guy like Bradley Chubb.
Yeah, but financially, you sort of maybe need to find him in a different way.
Right.
But yes, so much talk around the league about needing a pass rush up the middle, just because it's the fastest route to the quarterback. You see Aaron Donald, who's just a freak. You're not going to find somebody like that, but just the amount of success that he's had, you're like, well, how can we get something like that? And you're right. I think we talked about this all down the stretch of the season. Just, hey, is Baron Browning and Randy Gregory, is that going to be good enough moving forward? I think that it could be, but also you don't want to just rely on that because you don't know if Gregory's going to be healthy the whole season, and Baron Browning can't just be your only guy.
Right.
And so I do think that that's a position that they're going to have to address some sort of a pass rusher like that. Because George Payton said this a lot, where playing defense in this league is about getting after the quarterback and strong play in the secondary. And so that's why he went out and got Pat Surtain with the 9th overall pick a couple years ago. And we've seen that pay off. But up front, they're going to have to figure out something because the pressure on the quarterback just needs to be better. And so does that mean you pay Draymond Jones a lot of money? I don't know. I think maybe getting a guy on the outside may be a bigger priority.
Yeah, and especially because I think you need better run stoppers there.
Yeah.
Baron Browning showed some pass rush ability.
But keeping that edge.
Yeah, but to set the edge, the Broncos struggled with that at times, obviously, this year and have to be better there. And that's what Chubb and Gregory are good at because they're bigger guys. And so maybe adding a veteran helps there. But obviously, you got limited resources. If it were just as easy as spending all the money you wanted and having unlimited draft picks, everybody would be great. But you got to make decisions. Hey, do we need a right tackle or do we need a good edge player? Do we need a dominant wide receiver who can be kind of that guy opposite Jerry Jeudy? Or do we need another person? Do we need to sign Draymond Jones? Those are decisions you're going to have to make. And unfortunately, you can't make all of them. And then it comes down to, we talked about offensive scheme. Who's the defensive coordinator going to be? Vic Fangio has been linked to Sean Payton. We'll see if he were willing to come back here. I still think that would be a little bit surprising, but it's been reported that he's open to it. Fangio obviously was a defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh in San Francisco. Ejiro Evero worked on that staff, runs the same style of defense, that Vic Fangio defense. It's kind of more and more teams are running. So again, it might depend on, hey, in this system, you need two really good outside linebackers. In a different system, maybe you need an interior rush. Are you going to run a 4-3? Are you going to run a 3-4? Those things matter. And so I think each individual coach will kind of have to help
decide those things.
Yeah, and evaluate players. I mean, it's possible that a new head coach comes in and says, hey, I need Draymond Jones on this team.
Yeah.
And it's possible a different coach comes in and says, well, we probably need to spend those resources in other areas. And that's where, again, we talk about the value of having consistency and stability at the coaching position. It's hard if you're George Payton and you're trying to make these moves, and every year you're you're shopping for a different chef at the salad bar.
That's true, the salad bar.
So
what ingredients do they need?
I mean, one may say, hey, I need some nice spinach leaves. I'm going to make a nice salad. I'm going to use a balsamic. I'm going to do it. And then the next, hey, I'm making a traditional Caesar salad.
Yeah.
I need some hearts of romaine.
Exactly.
It's hard. And you're like, okay, well, how do I make a house salad with hearts of romaine? I can't do it.
I already got spinach.
Yeah. What do I do with these anchovies?
Exactly. This is what George has to deal with. I will say you hope that you can draft guys and develop them into starting roles.
Yeah.
And at the pass rush position, in my opinion, it seems like they've got a couple of guys who are sort of at the same level, like in terms of a Jonathan Cooper or Nick Benito, or these guys haven't become guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
They've all sort of been hey, these are nice pieces. If we need them to reserve in a reserve role.
Yeah. And, I'll reserve judgment on Benito just because it was year one. He didn't get a ton of snaps until the end of the year. He obviously needs to get in the weight room.
You could show him a few things in there.
Yeah.
This is how you curl.
Right.
This is
how you pick things up and put them down.
And you just kiss it every time it comes up.
Yeah.
Give it a kiss. Give it some love.
A little smooch.
Yeah.
I would say the Broncos, we talk about places where they need to figure things out. I would say inside linebacker with Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton. Hopefully you bring Singleton back.
That's been strong. That was a highlight last year.
Yeah, and then we talked before the year, hey, we're worried about inside linebacker.
Nope.
That was one of the strengths of this team.
Yeah.
I think you look at the secondary. Obviously, Kareem Jackson is a free agent.
Questions there. Is Caden Stearns ready to?
Yeah,
Can he be healthy? Can he be relied on?
But, I think Damari Mathis can be your cornerback too and be completely fine with that.
They're going to have to decide about Ronald Darby.
Yeah, Ronald Darby's a guy that he's coming off an ACL himself. And that happened early in the year, week 5.
Yeah.
Bolts. Mm-hmm. So I would think he would be ready, but you got to make a decision there. I was really impressed with Damari Mathis.
Yeah. So and you got K'Wan Williams back there too.
There are some good foundational pieces in place here, and not everything is an issue.
Yep. This was a good defense.
Yeah, of course.
And despite the pass rush.
And it played well even when you're down. DJ Jones didn't play the last game,
Yep.
the last couple of games. Brandon Browning didn't play in Kansas City. I mean, you're looking at it and you're like, who are some of these guys?
Yeah.
And they still played well, which I think speaks to the mindset they had under Ejiro Evero. It speaks to the scheme.
Who was the starting cornerback opposite Surtain?
Jaquan McMillan.
Yeah. That was the first time
you
we
were like,
all
is
knew
he on
him.
the team?
So did you.
Oh, I knew that he was.
You knew him?
Yeah, I did a nice little story about him in training camp.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What about Swanson? You knew him?
I knew of him. ECU.
Ever heard of East Carolina?
I don't think I've really talked with him.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever really know a guy, though? You know, that's what
He knows Justin.
makes you
Simmons.
think.
Does make you think.
You know?
Do I really know you?
him?
I don't really
do you-
know.
Yeah. The only people I really trust are in this room. I only know them.
I think we fixed the Broncos.
Yeah. But they do need to make a. What do you think happens with Draymond? What do you think happens?
I would guess that they will franchise him.
Really?
I don't know that that's the move I would make,
But you think
but
that's
I
what they'll
think
do? Buys you some time?
yeah, I think it buys you a little bit of time.
Yeah. I do think that puts. I do think that probably what tends to
What's
happen.
a franchise tag for a defensive end?
I think what tends to happen here is that Draymond's people will probably say this is a position of high priority in the NFL. Draymond is is a guy with like a lot of potential who's shown these flashes, and we think he's going to be a premier player in the league. Like they're going to sell him hard. The Broncos are going to counter that with what we just talked about how he started early, but then he kind of fell off without the pass rush. And they probably don't see eye to eye, I would say. And so the franchise tag will buy them some more time, I would think. I just don't see it happening.
You don't think they're going to
I don't
franchise
think
him?
because I just don't think that
So they won't franchise him.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. That's an option to buy more time, but I don't think that they'll do that.
So according to overthecap.com, the projected franchise tag for a defensive end would be just shy of $20 million.
Oh, too much. Never mind.
19.7.
I mean, this is a position that's
I retract my statement. That's too much.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that.
That's a lot of money.
That's too much.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening.
That's too much.
Yeah, I just
And granted,
for
if he goes into free agency and he signs a deal, you will get it works into the compensatory pick formula. I do think it's hard when George's philosophy is, hey, draft and develop players when you let guys just go.
Yeah, exactly. They drafted him and then they've developed him and
Yeah, and for a third round pick, I do think he's been a really good player.
Solid.
But yeah, $20 million is a lot.
Yeah. And I think what just tends to happen is that both camps tend to overvalue their position.
Yeah.
You know, on this.
And I mean, you got to realize here, you got a little bit of time, but at the end of next season, Pat Surtain is eligible for an extension.
Yeah.
And whether you do it then or you do it after his fourth year, I mean, he's going to get paid at some point.
Yes.
And will be, I would guess, near the...
He'd be the highest paid.
Yeah, if he's... Yeah, so you got to keep these things in mind when you're like...
Planning.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
Because you're going to pay Pat Surtain.
Yes. So...
He's going to return punts.
Yeah, he can just do everything. So
you think he would get like an extra $50 on a contract if he's like, I'll return a punt every now and then?
Well, he said he'll do whatever coaches ask him to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe $50. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll return a punt for $50. And also if they'll cover all of my hospital stay.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
It's true.
All right. Should we get to a voicemail? Or no, I'm sorry, not a voicemail, but in fact, an email.
Sure.
We've got an email from our good friend, Tom Agnetti. He says here, thank you for all that you do to keep the Broncos in my daily life. There are few things I love more than the Broncos, and that journey started for me in the mid-1970s. He was so encouraged by this past game. Although the tight games didn't go our way this year, the injuries bombarded us. I look for that to not happen next year. That would be nice
That'd
if
be
they
good.
won the
Be
close
good.
games, not all the injuries. And then he finishes here by saying the Broncos will be playing Washington,
Yes.
which is Mrs. Agnetti's team next year. Of
course.
He plans to come out, and he also plans to pay us a visit.
Yeah.
He thanks us for all of our hard work and hopes that we have a great offseason. And he signs your friend, Tom Agnetti, in Virginia Beach. Beach emoji.
Important.
Which is nice.
He typed beach and did the beach emoji? Or just Virginia beach emoji?
Well, Virginia Beach is a city. So
I am
he
aware.
says-
Thank you.
Emoji
I know
after
that.
the word.
And then he just put the emoji.
I was asking, was he just saying Virginia beach emoji? Or was it Virginia beach emoji?
Virginia
Latter.
Beach. Then the
Got it.
emoji.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
what I was asking. I
But,
know
yeah.
that Virginia Beach is a city.
Yeah, but he could have done Virginia and then beach emoji.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, Virginia Beach, then the emoji.
Got it. Comma Virginia or no comma Virginia?
He did not have a comma.
Oh, weird.
He did put a comma after your friend, though. Your friend, comma. That was nice.
You can use commas in different places. They're still right.
I think he could have used a few more commas. Personally, a lot of more commas
Yes.
and a lot of ellipses. I love ellipses. You won't stand for it, though.
Like I said, thank you for your hard work during late hours. I don't remember you doing any of those late hours.
Were you reading the same email? Did you censor some of Tom's email?
Yeah, he skipped around a little.
Oh, okay. All right.
Wow.
Should we, if you want to be like
Goodness
Tom Magnetti
gracious.
and have your email censored on the air, send an email to neutralzoneshow@gmail.com or leave a voicemail at 707-NEUTRAL.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Or leave
you
a
could-
comment directly on our YouTube page.
Yep.
Or reach out to us directly on Twitter at Eric Delalo with an A, at Phil Milani with a PH. Non-traditional spellings. That's one more yard for this offense.
Okay, that was like the legalese at the end of like a drug commercial or something. You know, like here are the side effects.
Side
Eric
effect
could
is
just
you're
host
still,
a
Side
podcast.
effects of
you're
this
still listening to
podcast.
this podcast.
Eric could just do the podcast all by himself, it sounds like.
That'd be really nice.
Yeah. You probably could just talk.
Should we
and
do some
talk
shout-outs, Phil?
and talk. Yeah, let's do it. Shout out Swanson's beard.
Thank you.
It's majestic.
Yeah.
Phil, I'd like to shout out our dear friend, close
Tom
personal
Magnetti.
friend
Tom Magnetti.
of yours personally, Pat Sertan II,
Oh, yeah.
named a first team All-Pro by the players. First year that the players are voting on an All-Pro team.
What do you think about that?
I like it. What's wrong with that?
Well, I just have a couple of quips, if you will.
Whips?
Quibs.
Don't think that's what you're going for. Quip is like a
Funny
short remark.
Yeah.
What am I thinking of? There's something there that it's
Quibble?
like maybe. There's a word that's very close to what I tried to say. That means
All right, why don't you tell us your
I have
quip?
I have some issues.
You tell us about your quips.
I'll have to think about that word and I'll get back to you. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
You have some issues.
Yes.
We know that.
Yes. One, I think that by like the idea of it is great, right?
Yep.
Like these are the players who go up against the other players, so they should know who's really talented.
Sure.
Right? So in my mind, I'm like, this should be really good. But I've also seen the way that some players fill out these types of things.
Yep.
You know, we've been in the locker room where they do like Pro Bowl voting or like top 100 voting stuff. I think that like an AP voter takes it a little bit more seriously, pays a little bit more attention to like every detail and fills it out with more thought is what I think. And so like a guy like Justin Simmons did not make this. Maybe, I mean, who knows how close he was to making it, but I just feel like it's billed as like this is maybe like more real than an AP All-Pro, right? It's sort of like, in my mind, it's like, hey, the players, the ones who are on the field, the ones who really know this game, they voted, and this should be taken more seriously. That I don't think necessarily is true.
Well, so just my counterpoint would be AP voters are probably the same as they're probably not watching as much film of individual guys. Like if you're not in a national TV game,
But they're probably looking at the results. They're probably looking at
looking at the box scores, but I guarantee you that they're not watching Broncos Chargers in week 18
True.
to see what's going on.
But do you think that they did all that, or do you think they're just like, Aaron Donald's really good, let's put him on this
So the
list?
way that you vote is that you can only vote for guys at your position or guys you've been against.
Played against, yeah.
So a wide receiver doesn't get to vote for quarterback or defensive line.
And I think that you couldn't miss more than 5 games or something like that automatically disqualified you.
Got it.
I think it was 5 games.
So like Cortland Sutton could vote for corners and he could vote for wide receivers.
And you couldn't vote for your teammates.
Right. And so I do think that they tried to make it so that it wasn't just,
Popularity contest.
This receiver's like heard a lot of good things about.
I like this guy.
Roquan Smith, so he's going to vote for him.
Yep.
It doesn't work that way.
They tried to limit that.
And I think the idea of all pro voting with the AP voting is that, they watch all these games and they know it, but
more results oriented. Like this guy actually had really produced a lot this year.
Yeah. Like I do think you could watch tape and be like, hey, Pat Surtain didn't have the stats that Sauce Gardner did, but
he was a better
he was a better player.
Yeah.
And like, hey, this should have been a flag and it wasn't called, but this should have been a flag here. Whereas I think there's a chance that you see the AP All Pro and Pat Surtain is not a first team.
Oh, I think he will be. You don't think so?
I don't think it's for sure at all. I think it's those voters, I think, tend to, like you said, look more at the box scores. It's impossible to watch not impossible, but you have to really be dedicated to watch every game every week.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I don't think that these AP voters all do that. I mean,
I just think they take it more seriously. Like the voting process, I think they're like, this is being a first team AP All Pro is a big deal. And I think that when they vote, they take it really seriously. More so than when the players just vote.
Yeah, but you don't really know that, right?
Not taking it seriously. I mean, Pro Bowl, like that's kind of weird to base that off of to me because like that's like a third of the vote, and like they know it's a lot of
or the top 100
or the top 100. Like that doesn't really mean anything. What's interesting is like
this doesn't.
You could put incentives like players have contract incentives that include all pros.
Pro Bowl.
I'm interested if this will be factored into that possibly.
That's what I'm saying. I think that they tried to build this as sort of like, hey, these are the players. They play the game. They go up against these guys. This is like probably the most prestigious award you can get, like by your peers.
I don't view it as more prestigious than the AP, but I think it's probably until you have more context and hey, let's see how do these
this is just a first class.
How do these match up? Like it's possible they could be identical. It's possible that
let's look at the defensive team if you could pull that up.
Okay.
So let's go through it if you would. Like
sure. All right, we'll start with interior D line. Chris Jones, Aaron Donald. Edge rushers are Nick Bosa.
Hold on. Do you think that Aaron Donald should be in? I mean, he's like the best player who ever played that position, but like he just didn't have the season.
Yeah, but you don't know what the AP is going to do.
Yeah, but
they could also pick Aaron Donald.
They could definitely do that. But like to me, it's just like, oh, Aaron Donald definitely belongs on this team. He's Aaron Donald. Instead of like, hey, Aaron Donald had the season to be on this team.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
I think you can know, and I agree with you that the guys don't always take Pro Bowl and top 100 voting seriously, and so it's easy to think, okay, maybe this is the same thing. I don't think you can say the AP voters do take this seriously because I don't think you know enough, and we don't know enough about who the AP voters are, how much work they put into it. I mean, there was a guy last year who, and this is part of why this was created in the first place, said, I'm not voting for Aaron Rodgers because he's not vaccinated.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's true.
These awards are not supposed to be voted on based on anything except on-field performance.
Yeah.
And this guy said, I'm not voting for you because you're not vaccinated.
Yeah.
And regardless of what your thoughts are on vaccination, that's not what's supposed to happen for this award. And so that's why this was created in the first place.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that, a Cleveland AP writer is more likely to vote for guys in Cleveland, I would think.
Yeah, but that's not how it's supposed to be done, right?
Right. But I just think that you look around and the number of voters there are, this happens too. And like we talk about the AP poll for college basketball, college football, which is, certain people are designated to vote for these things. There's all sorts of things that you're like, why is that like that? Or people are like, oh, I didn't vote for this team because I've never watched them.
Well, like for example, before this award came out with the players voting,
Yeah.
what's like would you say is the biggest honor a player could receive?
No, I agree that it's the AP.
All-Pro.
I agree.
And like when we go back and look at careers,
Yeah. No,
that's like sort of the first thing you look at, right?
Of course it is. But I'm just saying that I
would hope that an AP voter would take that more seriously than a weekly NCAA basketball poll.
I would hope so too. But I would also
You don't know for
I
sure.
don't know.
You don't know for sure.
And you just don't know for sure. And you would hope that everybody puts the effort in. And if they're deciding, hey, do I vote for Pat Surtain or Sauce Gardner? You'd hope they go back and they watch the
look into it a little bit more.
the cut-ups, and say, okay, well, hey, let me go look at some of Surtain's games. Let me look at some of Sauce's game. But in my guess would be in reality, they're watching a lot of primetime football games.
Yeah, of course.
They're covering the team that they cover on a week-to-week basis, unless they're a national writer. And there are probably just guys that they haven't seen.
familiar with.
And so you're more likely to go with that player. And maybe if a guy has an incredible number of interceptions or incredible number of touchdowns, you go back and look more carefully. But I'm sure there are deserving guys every year that
who gets snubbed.
And I would think that some of that is, I would guess at times, because maybe we don't know. I could be wrong. You could be wrong. But it's just hard to know how much effort people are putting into that.
Yeah, of course.
Regardless, still nice for Pat Surtain to be recognized by his peers.
of course, yeah.
But I don't think it's a given that Pat Surtain is a AP first team all.
No, none of this is just a given, but I would hope that people recognize his season. I just think that I hope that the players put a lot of thought into it before they vote.
And we'll see how it stacks up.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see how the two teams compare.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback, and that to me is right. So
yeah, it is. I think that's correct. So we'll have to see how they compare. But I'd be interested just to see how much thought goes into it. I hope they take it seriously. I hope they do. And instead, because a lot of them, we just sort of see like they do it fast. They don't really put a ton of thought into some of those other votes. So hopefully this one, they take it a little more seriously. If they want it to be like a prestigious type of thing where at the end of a career, you go back and look at like how many of these did they,
it's going to take time for that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when we talk about like Hall of Fame players and that type of thing, we go back and see how many first team All-Pros did they have.
Right. Well, and in the Hall of Fame voting, they often bring up, hey, how did your peers view you? So it's possible that they end up eventually saying, hey, like Pat Surtain had 2 first team AP All-Pros, but he had 5 first team like player All-Pros.
Yeah.
That shows
thing to just
his peers respected him.
Yeah. So I guess that's
I don't know.
It's a nice thing to get.
I'd like to congratulate Pat Surtain. You would like to say it means nothing.
I just said that I had a couple of quips, whatever that word means. But yes, shout out to Pat Surtain. Shout out
you've
in
earned
that
nothing.
same line. Shout out to Justin Simmons. Finished tied at the top of the league with 6 interceptions this year, and should have been also on that team.
You don't think Tyrann Mathieu should have been on there?
Was it Tyrann Mathieu?
Yes.
On the NFLPA?
I think so.
Minka
Minka
was free safety.
He also had 6 interceptions, right?
Sorry, not Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu didn't.
Tyrann Mathieu, nice player, should have been on that list too. Let's look at Minka's. What was Minka's season like?
All right. Minka had 6 picks in 15 games.
Oh,
bad.
See?
Yeah.
It's bad.
He had
How many forced fumbles?
0 forced fumbles.
Oh.
He had
Hey,
one.
but he went to Alabama, and he's a
That's
nice
how
guy.
this works.
He had 1 pick 6, 11 passes defensed.
Pick 6 is nice. That's important.
Touchdown,
That's
good.
important. Touchdown's important. I'm not trying to knock Minka. I'm just saying.
1 tackle for loss. And 96 total tackles.
96 is a lot of tackles.
You want to compare to Justin?
Yeah.
And then Justin he played 12 games. He had 6 picks, 7 passes defense, 3 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 69 total tackles.
Less tackles.
2 tackles for
No
loss. 7 passes defense. I can't remember if I said that.
Justin is one of my favorite players. I think you do have to also note that 4 of Justin's interceptions came against backup quarterbacks.
You do have to note that.
Right.
That's true.
Like
It's true.
Trace McSorley threw 2 interceptions to Justin Simmons, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It's true.
And
You can only play the quarterbacks that are on your schedule.
But it's not like and he picked off Patrick Mahomes and then made.
You can't be like, get Lamar back out here. I got to make this team.
Well,
one was against Colt McCoy. So
sorry, yeah, it's like one tick better. I just would say that like, and obviously that's not players are not looking at that, but in my mind, when I think about Justin's interception total, it's great, but like he did pad him a little bit against bad opponents.
Maybe if he would have scored on that one where he thought it was so close, then he would have been.
Maybe.
But also, shout out, a nice season too.
And he'll probably be a second-team All-Pro. He's earned that.
He had a nice season.
And we'll see what happens. Though I think the players, I would imagine they would announce a second team, but maybe not.
I don't know. They do say first team on their website.
Apparently, at some point, they're going to release the voting totals that show.
Okay, I want to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
That probably
Well,
will
if Tom
be
Brady
revealing.
starts getting votes, you'll know it's just a popularity deal.
Yeah.
On the player side, it says players who missed 5 or more games as of week 15 were ineligible.
It's just 5 or more.
So Justin was ineligible?
I
thought it was 5. I thought 5 was the
think
most
so,
you could
right?
miss.
I think that would make it's once it's reading it and you're just remembering, right?
That's what so maybe it's not even an argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did it say there?
Because he missed 5.
He'd missed 5.
Yeah, he played those last games. Yeah, he missed 5 the whole year. So
he was ineligible, according to you.
Yeah, it seems like it. According
Okay,
to this,
well.
right?
maybe I misremembered. Maybe.
Got a little quip with this.
Yeah, maybe. Whatever. Okay, anyway. Shout out to Liz Geralds.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nikola Jokic. Just continues to be on a tear.
What about
The
Jerry
Nuggets?
Judy for the
Jerry Judy,
Offensive
AFC
player
offensive player of is it the week or the month?
the
The
week?
week.
The week, yeah. Nice game.
I don't
No
think they
Tubbs,
do
but
player of the
154
month for
only two.
January.
Well, they might.
Once they get to 18.
So those games,
probably,
they
right?
shouldn't even.
Yeah. What if you're AFC or NFC player of the month in February? That means you just won the Super Bowl.
That's true.
Smart.
Will we continue to do Broncos employees of the month? I don't
I
think
don't
so.
know.
I think that comes to an end. Yeah. Any other shout outs?
I don't think so.
I think that's it, huh? Anything else from you, Swanson? Somebody random you want to just
I don't
shout out?
I don't think so. Shout out to you two
Monet,
Yeah.
Mane.
Monet.
for keeping me on as this podcast supervisor
The least we could do.
tryout or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, no show at the brewery this week. I kind of missed you
Nope.
guys. And no show coming up. So it's, wow, just Monday nights are, I don't know what to do.
I don't even know what to do.
I don't really know what to do with
Watch some football this week, Phil.
Yeah. Tom Brady's never lost to the Cowboys.
True.
Who you like this weekend? Anybody?
I don't even know that I'm most excited for this Chargers-Jaguars game.
Yes, me too.
That'll be
Trevor
good.
Lawrence. The
Funny
Jags
that,
beat him the first
like
time.
3 months ago, people were like, man, Trevor Lawrence might be a bust, huh?
Crazies.
And then he was like, hold my hair tie.
Do you kind of feel bad for some of these teams that are playing like third string quarterbacks?
Yeah,
They've made the playoffs, but like their guys
Like
just
the
not-
Dolphins got to go up there and play
Skylar
Thompson, and
That's rough.
the Ravens got to play. What are they on their third string guy?
I think so. Yeah. Lamar apparently still has swelling in his knee.
That's what they're saying.
That is what
Harbaugh
they're
had kind of an interesting.
saying.
He was asked, "Do you think this is about the contract?" And he said, "I'm focused on Cincinnati."
Yeah.
Mm.
How about the Burrow comment? The Windows his career.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that.
Joe Burrow.
That is just amazing.
It makes you wish
something
that, like, in the time that the Broncos have been bad, that one year they would have just been really bad.
Really, really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy because like you think like this last season was really bad, but they
won 5 games.
Yeah, they're the fifth. They got the fifth. Finished with that 5th pick.
We don't have that. The
No,
Seahawks.
of course the Seahawks have that one. But even
Enjoy.
But
You're
it's
welcome.
still. It's not even like
Send a postcard.
you're not a top 3 pick where you're
No.
getting like
No.
you know what I mean. Like there's still a lot that could
Yeah.
not go well in the draft.
But isn't it also bad that, like, you won 5 games when you weren't trying to tank?
That's true. Who knows what they were trying to do? Yeah, who knows? Yeah, and then on the NFC side, what are some of them at? The Cowboys and Bucks. That one's gonna be
Cowboys, Bucks, San San Francisco, Seattle.
Yeah.
I hope I know the Broncos need San Francisco to. So here's a tough one, Phil. If Seattle beats the 49ers, the Broncos pick is obviously better.
Yeah.
By at least 4 picks.
Yes.
If the Seahawks, or if the Niners win, the pick is worse, but the Seahawks lose. What would you prefer to have happen there? Would you like a better pick,
or
would you
think about the picks? I'm just going to say I'd rather have Seattle lose.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
but it is.
I don't want to.
It is interesting because I think the Broncos could have the 21st pick.
Could it be up to that high?
Yeah, if San Francisco loses this weekend, or no, 23rd. I forgot there's more wild card. There's like 18 wild card games.
It's super wild card weekend.
Because there's 6 games, right?
Yeah.
So the Niners have the best record. So assuming the Bills don't lose to Skylar Thompson, then if the Niners were to lose, they would have we would get the 18, 19, 20, 21, 30, 23rd pick, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
And then from there on out, it would be like 27th. So you could have as high as the 23rd, or Seattle could lose. And I would prefer Seattle to lose.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, our guy, Christian McCaffrey.
Of course.
See him keep going.
Yeah. Brock Purdy.
I like watching the 49ers.
The 49ers, of course, are on their 3rd-string quarterback as well, but they're just really good.
Yeah, that's true.
The moral of the story is it's easier to play with your 3rd-string quarterback when you also have George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Shanahan as your play caller.
That also helps, yeah.
That's good.
And then maybe the best matchup will be the Vikings-Giants. That could be
Yeah.
You don't think so?
It could be like a close game. I don't think I don't think it'll be a good game.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's not flashy.
Yeah. It's not Buccaneers.
What
Cowboys. That's going to be.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, there's not going to be not a lot of great games this weekend. But that sets up. Sometimes
it's going to happen.
Sometimes it sets up nicely for the divisional weekend. Maybe we'll get some.
That's true. Or maybe
like Bengals Bills.
Maybe that's going to be tremendous.
Wow.
A rematch of the game that never happened.
Okay.
Right? You got some thoughts?
You got quips about that? All right.
All right.
All right. Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. We'll be back again next week on Thursday. Until then, for Ben Swanson and Reed upstairs and Eric Law, I am Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.